YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. We're a week away until college football season. I'm pumped, and I got my top 10 teams for the season in this video. Going from 10 to 1, we'll kind of compare where I have them ranked compared to where the AP poll is at these teams ranked as well. So you guys can play along in the comments. Let me know your rankings. These are just in my opinion after evaluating the teams. We're going to have picks during the year, picks videos, and there's a picks league where you guys can join, and winner will get a prize. More info on that in a second, but make sure you follow our Twitter. That's kind of where you'll get access to that. Link in the description for the Twitter. Constant NFL and college football updates on there as well. Like, subscribe to the channel. Full football coverage here. Cannot wait for it to all start. Here's our Twitter. Yeah, here I'll pin a link in the comments of this video directly to this right here, what's on your screen. And you join through here. I want people to make their name, their entry name, similar to their Twitter username so I can find them, because sometimes we have a problem finding the people. So that's how you join. Winner will get a merch prize. We're going to do the same thing for NFL as well. But constant updates, a lot of NFL news, trade news, roster news going on. So good reason to follow that. My number 10 team for the college football season is going to be Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I have them at 10. AP poll has them at 9, so pretty close there. Love the defense. I like the defense. Even though they lost some key guys, I'm not really too worried about it. You get Marcus Freeman over there coaching the defense. That's fantastic. Definitely what they needed. Better. He's kind of that cornerback guru guy. They definitely need better cornerback play, recruitment. Seems like they're already getting that. But I'm not really worried about the defense. Kyle Hamilton, one of the best players in the country. I'm excited to see Tagovailoa Mosa because they're kind of moving him a little bit more towards that 3-4 end role instead of the interior. That's still considered an interior player, but I'm excited about that. So I'm not worried about the defense. Lost a lot of players on the offensive line, but it's one of those schools you don't really worry about the kind of the next unit up for them there. But I love Kyron Williams, love the running game. There's going to be a lot of pressure on the running game, though. I think they're going to see even more stacked boxes than last year. I think, similar problem with Book going to Jack Cohen, but neither of them really stretch the field, get the ball downfield, and have that explosive play ability, really. So they're able to do it with Book. Book does so much more with his legs, though. So that's why it's going to be a lot of running the football, So we'll see how Cohen does. Maybe he's out there, something to prove. Some receivers got to step up, kind of lacking in that department, in my opinion. But it's going to be a really good defense. They're going to run the ball a ton and very well, very effectively. Tough schedule this year. They play a lot of good teams. But I got them at 10 to start the year. Key game for me is Cincinnati. Very early in the season. Cincinnati is ranked 8 in the AP poll. We'll get to them. That's the key game to me, though. It's a must-win big game. The key game is not the hardest game necessarily, but I think for Notre Dame this is, even though they got a ton of hard games. But I'm saying throughout this video, it may not necessarily be the hardest game. But if you don't beat Cincinnati, Notre Dame's playoff hopes might be in trouble because that's a good shot. Cincinnati could go undefeated then, and if you're not able to pass Cincinnati in the rankings, you're probably not getting in. So that would be why that was pretty obvious when I thought. Freeman playing his old team, how will Cincinnati be without him? Will the defense take a hit? It's going to be a very good game, very entertaining game. My number 9 team is the Florida Gators in the AP poll. I was surprised down at 13. It's a little bold of me, I guess. It's a little risky to have a team like the Florida Gators up here in the top 10, I suppose, because they lost their top tier targets there. Mainly looking at Kyle Pitts, and we saw them without those guys in the bowl game against Oklahoma, and it was a disaster. Trask looked like a different guy because those weapons were gone, and obviously they don't have those weapons. And another thing, Trask really got things going down the field. With Emory Jones, is there a lot going down the field? So that'll be the concern, and maybe why you don't have the Florida Gators in the top 10. This is going to be a dominant running team, I believe. They don't have a star running back, maybe star player back there. I think they're pretty deep. They got a pretty good rotation. Emory Jones can run. We know that. Maybe a little bit of a sleeper in terms of his passing game. So the offense is going to be different, but it actually could be better in a different way. Defensively is kind of the big question because they gave up way too many points last year. But on paper, they look pretty decent. So I'm kind of hoping they live up to that hype. They got some guys returning. Love the linebacker unit in there, of course. Some big-time players returning at the, Kyer Elam at the cornerback position. When he first came into Florida, I'm thinking this guy's a future top 10 NFL draft pick. Hopefully he plays that way. Hopefully he lives up to that hype for me here this year. So I kind of like what I see on both sides, but we need to see it in action, because you could say, the defense looks good on paper, but is it going to go back to what it was last year? And the offense, it's pretty exciting with Emory Jones. How will they be throwing the ball, though? So there are some questions here, but I think pretty explosive team. Key game is that Georgia game in Jacksonville, in my opinion. That's the game. That's the game right there that they could realistically be in these rankings where I have them, where the AP poll has them at that time of the year. And with the Florida win, they could literally swap spots there, and that could decide the season. So I think that's the key game there in the neutral site, even though it's in Florida. So yeah. Gators, maybe AP poll sleeping on them a little bit. We'll see. Maybe I'm being a little bold here. Number 8, also number 8 on the AP poll. I got Cincinnati Bearcats. So many guys returning. Really excited about that. Desmond Ridder returns. After losing that bowl game, they put up a real good fight with Georgia. That's the thing with Cincinnati. They were kind of getting close with some of the, mainly a team like Central Florida. So everyone's thinking, they're going to play Georgia. They're going to get their ass beat. They put up a good fight. Could debate that they probably should have won the game. So many guys returning. That secondary is very good. Super talented. Do lose their defensive coordinator to Notre Dame, obviously. Will they take a hit because of that? They're pretty balanced across the board. Maybe a little more of a passing game going, but it's good. It's definitely good. It's good enough. Teams maybe will think maybe they're a little more prepared for them this year. More stacked boxes. Tougher schedule. Indiana, Notre Dame. Back-to-back weeks, actually. Back-to-back games. I got to go with that Notre Dame one's the biggest one, though. That's a huge game for them. The winner of that game looks to be kind of controlling their own destiny, we can almost say. Debatable, I guess, in terms of making the college football playoff. And the loser is still going to be a good team, but they're probably not going to make the playoff, So that's going to be a wild game there. So how will they be with a little bit tougher schedule? I still like them in the top 10. I got them at 8 here. I like that they got so many stud players returning there for sure. Number 7, I'm going Texas A&M. They're actually 6 on the AP poll. That's a tough team here because I love this roster so much. It's so many returning players. This running game is ridiculous, led by Isaiah Spiller, who's arguably the best running back in college football. It's probably debatable, but he's so good. He's an NFL talent. They got a long list of guys. They got Smith. That's kind of that all-purpose machine of college football in terms of receiving, running the ball. Just so athletic, so many good weapons. There really isn't a unit that I am at all worried. Receivers could be a little better in general in terms of just being consistent, I suppose, as an entire unit. But I love the roster. The defense has got almost everyone. Lael, one of the better players in all of defensive players in all of college football. But the secondary is loaded with returning players. I thought they played pretty tough last year. It's just a really good roster. They run the football very, very well. They're explosive. But then it kind of just brings us, with looking at that roster, I want to rank it better than this. But then it kind of brings us to, Haynes King and the quarterback position, the freshman quarterback there. And, if I would, it's kind of a mystery. It's kind of up in the air on how he will play. But if I was comfortable, confident with them at the quarterback position more than I am right now, they would be a playoff team. Like, let's say they had Kellen Mond back, obviously. They would be a championship contending team, I think. So it's tough. I love the roster for sure. I'm really excited to see, will team, how they, that's the problem. They can run the ball better than anybody, and can they beat teams? Can they beat Alabama doing that, though? Can they keep up at a certain point? They're going to have to throw the ball. Maybe King will be better than expected. Maybe. We had some reps. What was that last year? One touchdown, one pick, if I'm not mistaken. So we didn't see much from him. We'll go with it. We didn't really see anything from him. Key game. I actually went LSU. That might surprise people. They could lose that Bama game and possibly still be alive. Not a lot of us expecting to win that Bama game. Who knows though? I look towards the end of the year. Ole Miss and LSU, two sneaky teams. I know LSU lost Brennan. That was unfortunate, but still very sneaky teams. Ole Miss, and I think there's another game in there, and then it's LSU, the last game of the year. That's where LSU's probably going to start balling out like they usually do. Again, a sneaky team. So that's going to be that must win. They may have only one loss up to that point. So that, to me, is the key game. So it's a team I'm excited to watch, though, because, again, that roster looks real good, but it's all about that quarterback play, too. Number 6, who was ranked 5 in the AP poll, I'm going to go Georgia. Their key game is just like we talked about Florida. I think it's the same, and people may argue with that, and you can definitely, if you say Clemson's the key game, sure, I think you're right as well. But if they win that game, it's absolutely, it's major, it's huge, and they can win that game for sure. There in week 1, but if they lose that game, it doesn't. It doesn't eliminate them, not even close, and looking at the rest of the schedule, pretty good schedule for the Georgia Bulldogs. It's just really that Florida game that really could go either way. It's hard to say that, I guess, at this point, but I would imagine that's an educated prediction there. That's the game, because if they go and lose that game, if they beat Clemson and lose to Florida there in the middle of the season, they could make the playoff, but they're more likely not to. And that's with beating Clemson to start the year. If they lose to Clemson and beat Florida, can kind of get on that hot streak, believe it or not, I think they have a better shot of getting in. So probably can debate that, but that's how I view it. I think that's how the committee kind of works there. So Georgia, a lot of guys, not a lot of returning starters, some key guys too, really kind of all over the place. They're set at the running back position, with White and Cook, maybe one of the best duos in college football, maybe the best. They're fine there. And they have a passer, JT Daniels. It's really on him. Like, how will he play? How will he be? It's really on him. Not having George Pickens, or however they don't have him for, what was that, March, where he had the knee injury. That could decide a lot. Losing their cornerback duo, LeCount, who was a key guy there. Monty Rice was a key guy, and Aguilari, their key pass rusher. They lost some big-time players, but obviously do a good job recruiting. Next guy up is usually pretty solid. So it's a tough team to rank because they did lose a lot. I think, between the balance that they have, the running game is more of their thing, I guess. But I like the balance between the passing and the running game that can make teams. It can make it really challenging for teams. So we'll see what they got for us. Probably going to be some surprise first-year starters there shouldn't be that much surprises that will really break out. But not too far away from that Clemson-Georgia game. Really excited for that. Number 5 is going to be Iowa State, actually. AP poll has them at 7. Huge Matt Campbell guy. Love how many returners they have on this roster. You look at them early last year versus late last year. It's not even the same team, how they got going. Breece Hall, maybe the best non-quarterback in all of college football. It's one of those guys you kind of can game plan for and you can't really stop. But kind of like Georgia, we talked about that they can run the crap out of the ball and they can throw the ball too. Iowa State has that balance as well, which just makes it so tough for teams to game plan. You can't really specifically game plan a certain way. It's a very well-coached team too, because Brock Purdy I would like Brock Purdy I would like him to be a little more consistent. I haven't been a huge, he's very good, but I haven't, there's a lot of people way higher on him than I am, than where I'm at with him. Just be a little more consistent there in the passing game. Look at the end of the Big 12 championship game, plays like that. But I love the balance they have. I love the guys they got back. Defense is getting better too. You think about offense with this team, the defense is pretty solid. It's just really about Oklahoma, and probably Oklahoma twice, Big 12 championship game. So, let's see. Hopefully they don't start a little sloppy like last year, but they really got going at the end of last year. And they, Oklahoma's damn good, and we'll talk about them in a little bit, but Iowa State definitely has a shot to beat them. We saw the split last year, but it's going to be closer than people think, in my opinion. So that's why I got them at 5. It should be pretty interesting. Pretty wild if we'll see Iowa State in the playoff. It's possible too. People don't really think about it, but it's pretty crazy. Number 4, I'm going to go Ohio State. AP poll has them at 4 as well. Very close to 3. 3-4, kind of back and forth. It's really kind of the departure of Justin Fields, and how will C.J. Stroud be Will he be that Ohio State quarterback? He's going to be good. He's going to be good. He's playing for Ohio State. He's very talented. Just how good will he be? Will there be an adjustment period? They should, even with losing Sermon, they'll be able to run the ball just fine. Teague, they got that freshman in there. They'll be able to run the ball fine. They have the weapons at receiver, obviously the best duo, maybe trio in football, obviously. So they got the talent. Offensive line looks good. Defensive line, Haskell Garrett coming back. I mean, they got some studs on the defensive line, some young studs as well. I guess the back part of the defense, quite a bit of new faces, but they do such a good job recruiting. I think Stroud kind of picking up, right away and being better than people expected. That could be a reason that, they're better than number 4, maybe the best team. Pass rush, that pass rush, whether it's coming from interior or the edge, that could be the game changer there, that they very well could be that best team because of that. So we'll see. The big game there, I think, is Oregon early, especially you look at earlier in the year, because new quarterback, you're kind of just trying to get in the groove. You play Oregon early in the year. Oregon, it could be a sneaky good defense there. I mean, the defense looks really good on paper. They struggled a little bit last year. I don't think you can base anything off last year, though, because they had a lot of guys opt out, and it was a weird Pac-12 season, obviously. Same with the Big Ten. But that defense could be pretty good, and they can maybe cause some problems for Ohio State early in the season with the new quarterback. I know everyone is expecting Ohio State to win the game. They're favorites for a reason already. But I guess that could be a sneaky game. And Oregon's a really good football team. Borderline almost made this list for me. They're right outside the top 10. So that should be the interesting game for them. So it's just really about it's always a tough thing to figure out, how would the new quarterback play. That's really it there. 3, I'm going to go Oklahoma. AP poll has them at 2. We know it's going to be an explosive offense. Their defense is night and day different than what it was maybe even 3 years ago, 3 to 5 years ago and on. Night and day difference. They got pass rush with Bonito, obviously. I guess they lost a little bit at the cornerback position, so it's not going to be the best defense in the country, but it's definitely better than what it once was. They balled out in that Florida game too, so that was big time for them. But kind of like Iowa State, night and day difference from early in the year versus late in the year. They were a little sloppy early in the year, losing, having lost to Kansas State. So hopefully we don't see any of that. We don't want to see any of that, obviously, but it's an explosive offensive team here. We just don't want to see any of those hiccups early in the year. The big games against Iowa State. Could put Kansas State in there because they've had struggles with Kansas State, but they really shouldn't. I'm just really excited to watch this team with Rattler, see how he progressed from, because he was throwing some late interceptions, in some of those games early in the year. Gets a little kind of crazy, tries to play the hero ball a little bit, but that's what he is. He's a big-time playmaker. I like the running back group too, Kennedy Brooks, and they bring Gray over from Tennessee. It's going to be probably switching by week, which one goes off more than the other. That's a good thing to have there. So, really excited to watch this team. Number 2, I went a little bold here. Shouldn't be too bold. I got Bama at 2. Bama's going to be great. It's a team that can win the national championship game. I'm really excited about Bryce Young, obviously. Offensive line, they lost a bit, but we know the next guy's up. We're not worried about the offensive line. Same with the receivers. Next guy's up. Mechie should take off this year. It's one of those schools, you just bank on the next guy's up, the recruiting. So, and it's always top tier, obviously. Defensively, the linebacker unit's ridiculous, and then we'll have some guys step up. Every year there comes a new name that weren't really familiar with the year before, like their safety group as well. Joe back at the cornerback position, I thought he was really getting good at the end of the year last year, kind of made a bigger name for himself. So it's a national championship roster. I went with Ole Miss. Ole Miss gave him some problems last year. Another year in there with Kiffin, Corral back as well. For some reason, they gave him a little bit of problems. Technically, there's going to be teams on their schedule that are better than Ole Miss. Ole Miss can be sneaky good, but in general, they're going to be better. Like Texas A&M perhaps. But I look at Ole Miss. They had and it could be totally different this year. But they had an interesting game plan there. Probably had something to do with Kiffin. So I guess that's probably the one to watch there. But Alabama, not being 1 is just not something that they're lacking. To me, have them at 2. It's just more. I really like this Clemson team. I really like this roster. It's really a toss-up. I've definitely changed my mind on this over and over again. I really like this roster. I think a problem with them in that Ohio State game, they were actually allowing a lot of pressure in that game, but a lot of returning offensive linemen, minus maybe Jackson Carman, who's in the NFL, obviously on the Bengals. I think having those returners for the most part is fantastic. They're continuing to develop, progress. So the offensive line could play a lot better than what it did last year. They get Justin Ross back, who could be the best receiver in all of college football, perhaps. I'm not, losing ETN. I'm not really worried about that. They got a list of running backs that could be pretty sneaky, in my opinion. So I'm not really worried about that too much. And then DJ Uiagalelei, I think could be that best player in college football. What I think we could see. I think we could see a lot more of the read option. It worked so well with Trevor Lawrence when they kind of had him keep the ball. He took off. And I think they really, really deep down wanted to do it more. Now you have that opportunity here with him, and it's good that he got that experience, and he had a really good game against Notre Dame as well. I mean, he can air the ball out too. It's just such a dangerous team. You got to worry about covering Ross. You got to worry about the deep ball. You got to worry about them on the ground, but who's keeping the ball? I love that offense, but look at the defense. And what's actually been underwhelming, maybe since Cleveland Farrell days, is the pass rush, but I think it's going to take off this year. You have Tyler Davis stopping a run, just a stud in there stopping a run. Breeze, who they got as a top recruit a few years ago, was actually more of a edge rush guy, defensive end. They're kind of working him inside. I think it's time for him to take off, and he's pretty versatile. He can move him around. They have Miles Murphy as well, who was a tackle for loss machine last year for them. Linebacker unit's pretty much back there. Spector's a great blitzer as well. I mean, so they love their cornerback group. So I mean, they're deep across the board. I think the difference is offensive line plays better this year than it did last year in the big game. Big game against Ohio State. Maybe they get a Notre Dame game too. They get a little bit of that pressure got to DJ in that. In the overtime. So the offensive line plays better, but in the pass rush, the defensive line in general, I think that's big time for them. So I love the way they're stacked across the board. They got big-time returners, guys coming back, but then you look at who they lost. They lost like such big guys. The first overall pick, Trevor Lawrence, but they're replacing them with just as talented of guys, in my opinion. So that's why I got Clemson at 1, kind of feeling it here, but we'll see. They could very well lose next weekend to Georgia, and then I look like an idiot. But I mean, the season's not over then. But yeah, that game against Georgia is going to be huge. Cannot wait for it. That's the game. That's the game right there. It's the one that you must win right off the bat. Tough game. Kind of a unique week 1 game in my opinion. So I'm really excited for that. Teams that just missed the cut, mainly just 2 that I really, really considered: Oregon and North Carolina. North Carolina, I'm excited about Ty Chandler. They got transferred, but yeah, they are missing that running back duo there, and they kind of ran the ball to open things up for Howell. And they missing their top 2 receivers now as well. So how will they be? Will they kind of have the same plan? I wasn't a big fan of their play calling. Look at the Notre Dame game they could have won, believe it or not. The play calling wasn't too good. And they had those random losses, like no way they're going to lose this game, and they just couldn't stop anybody in those games. So that's why I'm a little nervous putting them in the top 10, but Sam Howell's big time. That it's a big time team now, so they'll be damn good. And Oregon looks good on paper. I guess quarterback is a little bit of a question. But they got some studs on defense. Kayvon Thibodeau, maybe the best player in all the country, maybe the best draft prospect as well. Defense was pretty disappointing last year, but again, they had guys opt out. It's such a weird season for the Pac-12. But it was mind-blowing, like how many yards, Oregon State, for an example, how many yards they go up on the ground to them. So I want to like that team more. It kind of got to prove it to me a little bit. So those are really the 2 teams I strongly considered. There's other good teams, don't get me wrong. And then I think Ole Miss can be very sneaky. Ole Miss can be very, very sneaky. Indiana could upset some teams. Not that they're going to be top 10. LSU could be sneaky. It was unfortunate that Miles Brennan recently got injured, but yeah, that's my top 10 college football teams for the season. Let me know your guys' thoughts. We're always talking on Twitter. Make sure you follow that Twitter to get involved in our picks league for college football and NFL. check it out. Like, subscribe to the channel. Full coverage here. All kinds of, if you're new, all kinds of NFL coverage here. So hopefully you join us for all that. It's going to do it, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.